is.
Thanks, Kel. Take care on the road. Stay with us now for 9 News.
Tonight, urgent rescue, a toddler and a woman trapped in a driveway emergency in Edgewater. A pilot fighting for life, his light plane left a mangled wreck at Bunbury Airport. An aspiring software engineer dodges jail, 200,000 student profiles hacked at UWA. Bushfire season blowout, warnings of dangerous conditions throughout autumn. And celebrating 20 years of Cottesloe's Sculpture by the Sea.
This is 9 News Perth with Michael Thomson.
Good evening. First tonight, there's been an urgent rescue in Edgewater after a toddler and a woman became trapped in a driveway emergency. Michael Stamp is there, and Michael, both are seriously injured.
Michael, it's a very concerning scene here on Woodbridge in Edgewater. A woman and a toddler believed to be just 18 months old have been injured after a car rolled down the driveway and hit them. The toddler has been rushed to Perth Children's Hospital tonight, and the woman is now in Royal Perth Hospital, both in a serious condition. Now, a Kia Carnival is in the driveway at this home, around about 30 metres away from me. It's parked in the driveway, but appears to have collided with two parked vehicles at the end of that driveway. Now, emergency services, they raced into the scene around 3:30 this afternoon because the woman was trapped under the vehicle for at least an hour. Firefighters using hydraulics to lift the vehicle up and then free the woman. But what exactly has happened here to lead to this very concerning event is still unclear. Police do have the driveway taped off and the road is closed as well. But just to repeat, a woman and a toddler believed to be just 18 months old are both in a serious condition in hospital tonight. Michael? Michael, thank you for the update. Now to another emergency response. A pilot is fighting for life after a light plane crash at Bunbury Airport. Yvonne Ardley, he's been airlifted to Royal Perth Hospital.
Michael, in a critical condition, and when you see what's left of his privately owned aircraft, it's not hard to understand why. Left a mangled wreck when it crashed into at the end of the runway at Bunbury Airport. Emergency services were called to the scene just before 3 o'clock this afternoon, where they found the pilot, the sole occupant, trapped inside. Swinging into action, they turned the tarmac into a makeshift hospital as paramedics worked to stabilise him. He was then sent back up into the air, this time in the rescue chopper, where he was then airlifted to Royal Perth Hospital, where tonight, Michael, he is fighting for his life.
Yvonne, thank you. A budding software engineer has avoided jail after hacking into more than 200,000 student profiles at the University of Western Australia. The 24-year-old did it for the challenge but stopped short of using the data.
He's an aspiring software engineer who tested his skills to the next level. Halfway through his master's degree at UWA, Ming Han Ong hacked into the student data system.
Mr. Ong, what were you planning on doing with all that student data?
He designed a program to scrape the portal, trying over 5 months before hacking into 207,000 student profiles. Gaining access to their names, dates of birth, addresses, photos and academic transcripts, eventually saving the details of more than 43,000 students.
Do you accept that it would have been very stressful for the student?
A court today heard the 24-year-old was motivated by the challenge and was also trying to please a friend who wanted to modify the transcript of a particular student he wanted to punish. For 11 days, Ong's program was working away, filtering the profiles down to those in his own student cohort. But just 2 days later, he logged into a computer here at the University Club and deleted the data. In sentencing, a magistrate said the nature of the information was extremely sensitive and in the wrong hands could be used to cause significant harm, adverse consequences and inconvenience. She said she had no doubt there would have been considerable anxiety and concern amongst the student population, but she took into account Ong's youth, guilty plea and remorse, handing him a 7-month suspended prison term.
How relieved are you to have avoided a jail term?
Jamie Freestone, 9 News.
We're in for longer bushfire season than usual, with warnings tonight of dangerous conditions throughout autumn. Aerial support has been extended as firefighters brace for more long, hot days.
It's been a tough bushfire season and it's not over yet. 3,700 fires sparked across the state since October. That's up more than 30%. DFS warning of a longer season to come, staying on alert for the next 3 months. The risk highest in our south.
So we're looking for a slightly warmer than average autumn with warmer than average days and nights.
The bushfire season also beginning ahead of schedule. The aerial fleet brought on a month early in October.
We've seen an overlap of the northern and southern bushfire season, so it has sort of become the norm, but the extension well into autumn is probably the precedent is being set.
DFS extending their resources. The large air tanker will stay in WA until late March. The Helitax and Black Hawk helicopters will be available till April. The fleet already dropping 12 million litres of retardant and water this season.
And that's purely to make sure that we have the appropriate resourcing to support our firefighters on the front end.
Only 1.5% of WA households have a bushfire plan. It only takes 15 minutes to complete, but could save your life.
Yeah, it is a little bit disappointing, but probably more frustrating that people aren't getting the message of the importance about having a bushfire plan in place.
Sarah Smith, 9 News.
Thousands of sheep and cattle are once again being loaded onto the MV Bahia as it prepares to depart Fremantle Port for the Middle East, set to take off almost 2 months after the ship was turned back due to tensions in the Red Sea. The livestock left in limbo. The Department of Agriculture approving the new export application to take a different route, but animal welfare groups are outraged. Perth house prices have lifted to a fresh peak. At Monica Cost, we've just had our 19th consecutive month of growth.
Michael, we've got the strongest market in the country. Nationally, prices grew 7.06% in the year to February. Here, they're up a whopping 16.3%, 52.8% since March 2020. The median value now $651,000. Armidale, Rockingham, Gosnells, Kwinana and Wanneroo seeing the highest growth in the past 12 months. Prices in regional WA have also hit a new high. They're up 9.6% on this time last year, $484,000 the median value. Affordability, population growth and a tight rental market all contributing to our situation, Michael.
The boom continues. Martin, thank you. Police have seized more than $2 million in cash, drugs and firearms as part of a major money laundering investigation. Officers first finding $500,000 in a duffel bag during a traffic stop in Forestfield, prompting a further 10 search warrants in the southern suburbs. 7 people have so far been charged. Another pay fight is brewing for the Cook government. Police, the latest cohort to demand more money for less work. A crusade being labelled ambitious.
They respond to life and death situations.
Undo your seatbelt! Undo your seatbelt! Go!
Taking down WA criminals.
Get out of the car! You're under arrest!
And now the police union is demanding to be better rewarded.
No disrespect to any other public sector workforce, but policing is probably one of the hardest jobs to do.
President Paul Gale today launching a new wage war headlined by an 8.5% pay rise in the first year, followed by 5% more the year after, demanding to receive double pay for overtime and work 2 less hours a week.
So the surplus is there. They need to now repay the public sector workforce for the hard yards that they did.
But the government is questioning the union's demands of being paid to work less for more money.
We will try and negotiate in good faith. That is an ambitious claim, but, you know, we're not ruling anything in or out.
Just 8 months ago, the union begrudgingly accepted a 3% pay rise, but now want to match Cole Blanch's recent increase. Our top cop receiving an 8.5% pay rise, taking his salary over $500,000 a year, almost 5 times more than a senior constable working in the force for 9+ years. The current agreement expires at the end of June. The Industrial Relations Minister says the government will consider the union's demands, but warning it could be a lengthy process.
Look, we'll fight for as long as we need to.
Michael Stamp, 9 News.
Just 3 days after his forced resignation, Steve Thomas has returned to the shadow cabinet. Liberal leader Libby met him announcing his comeback as part of a reshuffle, saying the MP has apologised and been significantly demoted over his dealings with disgraced former Labor Premier Brian Burke.
He is no longer the leader of the House, he is no longer the deputy leader and he's no longer the shadow treasurer.
Steve Thomas will remain the spokesperson for Energy and Industrial Relations, while Neil Thomson is promoted to Shadow Treasurer. Telstra's boss has apologised after a 90-minute outage had fatal consequences. A Melbourne man dying after suffering a cardiac arrest, his family unable to dial 000 this morning. Telstra operators couldn't transfer calls and instead had to resort to emailing details agencies' call takers.
It's dangerous and it's alarming, and what's really concerning is it doesn't really seem that there was a decent backup system there to step in.
Callers in Western Australia were not affected. Voters in the outer Melbourne suburb of Dunley will tomorrow deliver a temperature check on the political state of play. Labor holds the seat, but the punishing cost of living is predicted to be a key factor in a close by-election.
A pint-sized poly peddler ahead of a tight race.
And you got the seatbelt on as well.
Anthony Albanese and Peter Dutton duking it out in Dunley.
You want my lads? You got me.
A seaside scrap that'll shape the broader political fight.
I don't think this government takes the protection of our borders or the protection of the community seriously.
A fear campaign about everything and a solution for nothing.
Labor holds Dunley by a deceptively comfortable 6% margin. The death of popular local MP Peter Murphy and cost of living pressures have left the seat exposed to potential Liberal plunder.
We'll do what we can to put more dollars in people's pockets.
He's not putting in place policies which are helping people.
In the background, right-wing group Advance has been running a shadow campaign drumming up fear about criminal detainees released into the community, unintentionally aided by Victoria Police arresting a former detainee on sexual assault charges. Wrongly, it turned out.
And for that we are sincerely sorry.
But Deputy Opposition Leader Susan Lee had already taken to Twitter. If you do not want to see Australian women being assaulted by foreign criminals, vote against Labor.
That tweet, I think, reflects badly.
As a woman, I am not taking a backward step on this.
The ALP and the Liberals both say tomorrow's by-election will be tight. Some cabinet ministers have told 9 News Labor might even lose, which would be a big blow to the Prime Minister, whose candidate doesn't have the profile of her Liberal rival, the local mayor.
I'm Jodie. How are you, Mick? Nice to meet you. Yeah.
The bride, the boy.
Different Jodie.
My second favourite Jodie.
This Jodie will be glad. Andrew Probyn, 9 News.
A decision by Facebook's parent company to stop paying for Australian news content has been slammed by the Albanese government as a dereliction of its responsibility. The move from Meta, which could rip tens of millions of dollars from news outlets, has been met with fury.
That's not the Australian way.
Australian publishers deserve fair compensation for the content they produce and which is provided on Meta's platforms.
The government has signalled it's prepared to enforce the Media Bargaining Code, which could result in hefty fines for the social media giant. Now to shocking new details in the alleged double murder of Jessie Baird and Luke Davies in Sydney. 9 News has obtained the police fact sheet revealing how Constable Lamar Condon allegedly went about cleaning up a trail of evidence and how close Jessie's housemate came to uncovering the crime.
A time for the force to celebrate after one of the darkest periods in its history. At the Goulburn Police Academy today, 158 new police officers reported for duty after an official swearing-in ceremony. In 2018, Lamar Condon made the same oath, only to break it by allegedly killing 2 men, Jessie Baird and Luke Davies, and disposing of their bodies in surfboard bags.
This is a much bigger, prouder organisation than one person that's currently before the court.
And the facts that will be presented to the court paint a picture of the lengths that Lamar Condon allegedly went to cover up his crime. At around the time of the shooting on the Monday, a 000 call was made from Davis's phone. A male voice could be heard shouting, "Get out! Off," before the call was terminated. At 8 p.m. that same night, a housemate returned to the Paddington home and saw 2 surfboard bags lying outside near the roller door. They were covered with a tarp. The housemate took 3 photographs and prodded them with their finger unaware there were bodies inside. In a statement of facts obtained by the Sydney Morning Herald, New South Wales Police will allege that they found 3 cleaners in the process of cleaning the premises 2 days after the alleged murder. They had mopped half the wooden floor before police arrived and stopped them. Police will also allege they found blood staining consistent with the body bleeding heavily under the floorboards in the kitchen, a bullet hole and a .40 calibre cartridge on top of the kitchen cupboard. A post-mortem examination on the body of Jesse Baird has confirmed what police always believe, that he died from a gunshot. It will be alleged that shot was fired from Lamar Condon's police service weapon. An autopsy on Luke Davies' body is expected to produce the same results. Damien Ryan, 9 News.
More than 100 Palestinians have been killed in what's being described as a massacre in Gaza City. There are claims Israeli troops opened fire on a crowd during a delivery of aid, but Israel disputes the account.
A stampede of desperation. Palestinians swarming around the first load of food to enter northern Gaza in weeks. But as they sought help, Israel's military is accused of opening fire. Aid trucks attempting to escape, running civilians over. More than 700 people injured, at least 100 people killed, in a death toll only expected to rise. We ran towards the food aid to get some. The soldiers and the tanks fired at us. Israel's military says its soldiers were threatened and claimed troops attempted to disperse the crowd with a few warning shots.
No IDF strike was conducted towards the aid convoy.
A conflicting account against the Hamas-run Gaza Health Ministry, who has called the incident a massacre. What is happening to us is unjust, it is unfair, this Palestinian man says. We are people who just want to live and eat. Today, the Pentagon citing a devastatingly high death toll. At least 25,000 Palestinians have died in the enclave, according to Gaza's health ministry.
Far too many innocent Palestinians have been killed over the course of this conflict.
Today's deadly incident has only increased pressure on America to secure a ceasefire deal. But the president admits it also complicates those delicate negotiations.
Hope springs eternal.
For vulnerable citizens caught in the crossfire of war, hope is running out. In the United States, Lauren Tomazi, 9 News.
Thousands are set to flock to Cottesloe Beach over coming weeks for the annual Sculpture by the Sea. The exhibition attracting interest from around the world, but losing federal funding for the first time.
71 unique pieces, quirky and curious against a stunning backdrop. Sculptures by the Sea is back for its 20th year, hosted by Cottesloe Beach.
And it's just such a fantastic use of our beaches to connect people with art, but also really celebrate the place that we live in a different way.
More than 30 artworks are from WA sculptors, including these interactive balga trees from Noongar artist Sharon Egan. Taking out the winning title, this rustic piece entitled Lifeblood.
I wanted to basically picked up the Swan River from about Burswood to the coast and brought it into a three-dimensional shape.
We're usually told to admire art from afar, but British artist Sean Henry is promoting the exact opposite, encouraging people to get up close and personal with his sculpture, Seated Man.
I'm worried it's going to get quite hot on your hot Perth days. so some people might sit on it and then jump up again. But yeah, no, I'm happy for people to engage.
Last year's event attracted 250,000 people, and organisers are expecting a similar turnout for 2024, despite the lack of federal support, with funding cut for the first time in 2 decades.
It just doesn't make sense that the exhibition isn't funded by the federal government, except the arts bureaucrats, for whatever reason, don't like us.
The exhibition runs right through until March 18. Yvonne Ardley, 9 News.
Perth is expected to start autumn with rain and possibly a thunderstorm. And Kelly Haywood, there's a weather warning for parts of the state.
There is, Tomo, for those in the lower and southwest districts, including Perth. The system is right now in the north of WA, bringing strong winds and heavy rainfall to the Kimberley. As it passes, the trough will start to move down towards Perth tomorrow. It is likely to reach the city late tomorrow afternoon, and it's expected to bring winds up to 90 kilometres an hour. 20 millimetres of rain is likely to hit Perth and up to 80 millimetres to those in the southwest, with the chance of a thunderstorm thunderstorm and some large hail as well. It will start to ease by Sunday though, likely in the afternoon, but the humidity will still hang around before the sun returns on Monday, but I will have more on that coming up later in the bulletin.
Could be a wild weekend. Kelly, thank you. Next on 9 News, evacuations above ground and in a road tunnel below as a major sinkhole puts a building on the brink of collapse. Your first look at a new $1 million BMX track opening in Bayswater. Prince William back at work with a message from his wife amid growing concerns about her health. And later, the common medicines out of stock despite a big pharma deal. An office building is teetering on the brink of collapse after a 10-metre sinkhole opened up beneath it. An exclusion zone has been set up around the complex in southern Sydney as authorities investigate whether the construction of a tunnel nearby is to blame for the collapse. A new $1 million BMX track has opened in Bayswater and the circuit won't be a one-off. The state government looking to make use of under-rail spaces created by Metronet.
Tucked under Tonkin Highway, a new circuit to pump up the fun.
It's pretty sick. The jumps are mint. I've got a cool pump track.
Now opened, the $1 million BMX pump track and skills area project in Bayswater is hoped to bring life to an otherwise empty space.
This is all part of trying to make our spaces more usable, but also maximising the benefit of the infrastructure that we're delivering.
For young track talent Cooper Dunlop, the facility comes with plenty of challenges. The 15-year-old pushing in the hard work now with hopes of one day competing in the Olympics.
I saw BMX on the telly, so they just thought I should try it. The love of wheels has sort of started from then.
Also a fan, 13-year-old Emily Reid, a World Oceania Nationals champion for BMX racing.
Good layout. The jumps are pretty good. The pump track is flowy.
This new BMX track is one of many, giving experienced riders a new course and allowing first-timers like me to have a go.
People always complain about kids being in front of their social media, in front of their phones, in front of Xbox, and we know that's an easier thing to do now, and we need to make more of an effort to get young people outside.
There'll be a community event on April 14 to celebrate the track's official opening. Rachel Clifford, 9 News.
At least 45 people have been killed in a fire at a multi-storey building in Bangladesh. 75 people rescued in total, with dozens of those taken to hospital. It's believed the blaze started in a restaurant. US President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump have blamed each other for the situation at the country's border with Mexico. Both visited southern Texas as immigration shapes as a dominant issue in this year's election campaign. The Prince of Wales has returned to royal duties days after mysteriously skipping a memorial service attended by most of the family. The royal heir condemning a rise in anti-Semitism amid the war while meeting members of London's Jewish community.
Prince William back at work 2 days after pulling out of a major royal engagement at the last minute, visiting a London synagogue to meet with young representatives of the Jewish community who explain how students across the UK are dealing with a rise in anti-Semitic incidents amid the Israel-Hamas war.
Sadly, it really has proven to be a real challenge, both October the 7th.
The heir to the throne's response published via the Prince and Princess of Wales' social media accounts.
So you've heard it from me, anti-Semitism has no place in society. You've heard that from me. Both Catherine and I, extremely concerned about the rise of anti-Semitism that you guys have talked about so eloquently this morning. And I'm just so sorry one of you had to experience that.
This is the second time in as many weeks Prince William has expressed his concern about what's going on in the war. It's rare for any member of the royal family to make public remarks about topics like this. Last week he said too many people are being killed on both sides of the conflict. Today's visit included meeting 94-year-old Holocaust survivor Renee Salt, who also wished to speak about the Princess of Wales, who's recovering from abdominal surgery. Out of sight, but on people's minds, another gifting flowers for the princess.
These are for Her Royal Highness, because we just want to wish her well and we look forward to seeing her very soon.
That's really kind.
In London, Edward Godfrey, 9 News.
After a horror summer of drownings, students are being given vital swim safety lessons, but for many classes are out of reach. Details next. Plus, White Island verdict, a New Zealand judge orders millions in compensation over the deadly volcano disaster. Why your average cup of coffee could soon cost $6. And favourite sports that now have walking versions for seniors. The judge has ordered victims and families of the Whakaari White Island disaster be paid more than $9.5 million in reparations. 6 parties were today sentenced in an Auckland court after a lengthy trial. More than $2 million in fines were also handed down.
The risk of harm arising from these failures was significant and ever present. The realised risk was catastrophic.
Clearly, we are deeply sorry about the whole incident.
There were 47 people at the volcano when it erupted in 2019, 22 killed, including 17 Australians. This summer will go down as one of the worst in recent years for drownings, nearly 100 people losing their lives across the country. Surf Lifesavers carrying out more than 5,500 rescues, and tonight experts are warning the drowning risk is at a generational high.
The world-famous waves of Bondi. And for many of these international students, today was their first time in the surf.
I've only seen oceans in movies.
It was scary at first, but when the time passed by and when we get used to it, it gets super fun.
Western Sydney University swapping the lecture hall for the sand to teach beach safety.
Telling us how to float to survive. I do think it's very useful.
There were 99 drownings in Australia over summer. 55 of those were on the coast. 84% of coastal drownings were male, while rip currents remained the #1 danger, responsible for 29% of deaths. Safety in the pool just as important.
I've kind of told my boys it's non-negotiable that they'll be swimming at least until the end of primary school.
But many school-aged children are missing out.
There are many people that simply can't afford swimming lessons. They rely on the school system, and the school system's simply not able to support their swimming and water safety abilities.
Royal Lifesaving Australia says a lack of facilities, funding and training mean in some areas trips to the pool are a rare opportunity, and school carnivals are being scrapped entirely. Prior to the pandemic, 40% of kids leaving primary school were unable to swim 50 metres. That number has now doubled in some areas.
In some communities, it might be 80-90% of children simply leave school not being able to swim or float. So we've got to figure this out, otherwise each and every summer for the next decade or more, we're going to be talking about tragic cases.
Madison Scott, 9 News.
The price of an average coffee could soon hit $6 a cup as costs spike at cafes across the country. But depending on how you get your caffeine hit, you might already be paying that.
For most, it's a daily dose, sometimes twice. But analysts say coffee lovers should be bracing for an unwanted milestone.
$6 a coffee could be just around the corner.
The price of coffee beans remains elevated, but cafes could be charging $6 for a latte within months due to sharply higher shipping costs and local inflation hitting labour, power and rents.
It really could be weeks. It will depend how confident different baristas and different coffee places are that people will keep buying at that price.
Economists say it's part of a trend. Australians are forced to add, on average, $1 extra for their coffee every 2 years. But this time, we'll push the boundaries.
And it may mean that more consumers change to servo coffee or even back to the old-fashioned can of instant coffee.
Australians drink on average 4.5 kilos of coffee each per year. If and when the price hits $6 a cup, then one a day means $42 a week or close to $2,200 a year. Trevor Simmons owns Industry Beans. He says businesses are doing everything they can to delay the price hikes, but it's a losing battle.
It's inevitable. It's going to keep going up. It's more around how long can we hold off before we need to, but it will keep happening. Whether $6 is the new base, we'll see. I think it's a couple of years off.
Depending on what you order, the price of a coffee has likely already cracked $6. The majority of customers now ask for extras and alternatives, all pushing up the cost.
People jump up and down when the cost goes up 20 cents, but majority of people are just adding on bits and pieces to their everyday coffee.
But soon, even a simple latte will be giving customers the jitters. Chris Kohler, 9 News.
Sending sand and water flying, a World War II bomb has been detonated on Belgium's coast. The 100-kilogram explosive was found near the town of Cosseur, around 20 kilometres from Dunkirk. A wrong turn in the dark had a terrible ending for a tourist in Hawaii when he accidentally drove his rental car off a cliff. The man was able to swim to shore and was taken to hospital. The car took a little longer to retrieve. Keeping active is important for seniors, and now there are new ways to get your steps up. You may not know it, but some of Australia's favourite sports now have walking versions.
With the moves of someone half his age, who'd believe that Ziggy Novak is 75 years old?
You can't let it rust away. I mean, you really do have to get out and about.
And that's just what he does at walking football, where there's no running, no tackling, just plenty of enjoyment.
Not only are there health benefits, but they get to meet new people. They actually do make friends.
Now, I'm told you're a white.
I'm a white. Hello, Bruce.
For many, it's a chance to revisit a sport they love.
I played football when I was much younger, and then you get to a certain age, knocking on a bit, and you decide body can't take it anymore.
We're all equal out here, and the good thing is that they welcome you with open arms.
I had every intention of being involved in today's session, but then this happened. Still, I found a perfect way of being involved. Captains, are we ready for the toss?
Yes.
Heads or tails?
Heads, thanks.
It's heads. Welcome to walking netball.
For me, it's just being able to get back out on the netball court when I had to stop playing because of my age.
They think they can't do things that they used to be able to do. All these walking sports, they can.
Sheila has diabetes and she's also had a total knee replacement.
It gives me an avenue for fitness without doing the wrong things for my health.
And just have a shot. Bruce Page, 9 News.
Still to come after sport, while your regular medications are costing more, plus the appalling blowout in Centrelink waiting times. But first, Paddy Sweeney is here with Sport. And Paddy, a midfield move is paying off for a Docker.
I like it as well, Tomo. Fremantle are currently completing their final dress rehearsal ahead of round one. Practice makes perfect as the Dockers' young talent comes to the fore. Australia's struggling pair put a blemish on a near-perfect day. And the Demons finally snaps the streak against the fiercest of rivals. Hayden Young has shown his permanent midfield move is set to pay dividends, producing a dominant first half against Port Adelaide. The 22-year-old with 2 goals and 13 touches at the main break, the Dockers trailing by 14 points.
One final dress rehearsal, the Dockers with big plans for the season ahead. But it was a Port recruit making an early statement.
Soldo drifts forward and takes a good grab.
Ivan Soldo pushing his case for the #1 ruck spot. At the other end, a Dockers veteran back to his usual tricks.
Work little Walter sidestep and he's still got the moves.
Draftee Cooper Simpson showing why the Dockers have big raps on him.
The swoop pickup was delightful.
Port losing vice-captain Zach Butters to a sprained ankle in the opening term as Sam Swikowski made his return from a hamstring setback. Fans going to great lengths to get a glimpse of the action. Hayden Young putting on a show in his new midfield role.
A delightful shot. Perfect palm down to goal.
Port running rings around the Dockers in the second quarter, booting 5 goals. The skipper leading the way.
He's clinical, Rosie. He's one of the best in the comp.
The Dockers working their way back. Young's lethal left foot striking again from long range. Becoming a Docker only a fortnight ago, Patrick Voss comfortable in his new colours.
So from the paint, Voss. Hold. And gets it there. Nicely done.
Nat Fyfe's 15 disposals, Frio's equal highest to the main break. Alexia Pesce, 9 News.
Eagles' Jeremy McGovern and Jack Darling will make a welcome return from injury in tomorrow's match with Adelaide. McGovern returning from groin soreness, while Darling lines up for his first competitive hit out of the pre-season, overcoming a hamstring strain. Meanwhile, Geelong's 5 unanswered final quarter goals helping them come from behind to defeat the Bombers by 12 points.
Laverty left it for Stengel, and he does put the ball through and gets the locals even more excited.
In another blow for Essendon, defender Jordan Ridley suffering a quad injury, now facing a delayed start to the season. Ugly dismissals to Marnus Labuschagne and Steve Smith have left a sour taste on a dominant day 2 for Australia. West Aussie Cameron Green powering the Aussies to 383 before rolling New Zealand for 179. But some late drama saw the visitors finish at 2 for 13 at stumps.
The Aussie bowlers were hungry for their turn, but Cameron Green still had an appetite.
Oh, he's gone after that. Backed away, and it's been clobbered.
The Centurion sending the black caps and the crowd scrambling, belting 4 sixes to reach a new career high.
Gone for 6. What a way to bring up 150.
And Josh Haywood also showed rare poise at number 11, helping add to the milestones on a manic morning.
And that's a 100 partnership between the two too.
Their 10th wicket stand brought to a halt at 116, and the hosts were still rattled when they reached the crease.
And he wants to run, got to hurry, he's a mix-up. Well, I cannot believe it.
The chaotic collision knocking out Kane Williamson for a duck, and the brain fade was contagious.
Goes after it, and in the end he's gone. He's gone.
In the blink of an eye, New Zealand was 5 for 29, and while Glenn Phillips's 71 provided some resistance, Nathan Lyon would strike back with 4 wickets to tidy off the tail. A dream day, which suddenly turned sour.
Got him! Yes, he's got one!
Third ball duck adding to Steve Smith's opening failures, outdone only by another Marnus mistake.
Oh, he's got him down leg! Whoa!
A spark of New Zealand hope, which could have been even bigger.
Straight it's oh, it's dropped! Oh, last ball of the day!
Joshua Dawn, 9 News.
A maiden first-class century from Jayden Goodwin has rescued WA on the opening day of their Shield clash with Queensland. Sent in an early setback for the hosts with Cam Bancroft gone for a 6-ball duck. Captain Sam Whiteman and Goodwin putting on 128 for the second wicket. The 22-year-old's ton coming off 245 balls.
There it goes. That'll go to the boundary. What a moment for Goodwin. Brings up the 100.
Goodwin out for 115, WA 9 for 287 at stumps. Xavier Bartlett with 5 wickets. Wildcats coach John Rillie believes resilience gained from a rollercoaster season has them primed for a crack at this year's championship. Perth losing 5 of their first 7 games before winning 13 of their next 15, finishing second on the ladder.
What I would say our season allowed us to do was mentally deal with things that will pop up in the playoffs. Playoff basketball is about who can control their emotions and which players can really just turn it on in the right moment.
The Wildcats host the Jack Jumpers in Game 1 of their playoff series next Friday. And another breakthrough in the career of Alex de Minaur, this time at the Mexico Open. Australia's top-ranked male coming from a set-down to defeat Stefanos Tsitsipas. Victory ending a 10-game losing run against the Greek.
There we go. And it's 11th time lucky for Alex de Minaur.
The 25-year-old through to the semi-finals as he tries to defend his title. Tomo, he's putting together a great year, is Alex de Minaur. And speaking of great, Cameron Green, 174 not out, his new personal best in first-class cricket.
And in the circumstances and the other scores from the other batsmen, and there's some serious batsmen in both teams, brilliant performance.
He's completely shifted that game, hasn't he?
I have to see what he does this innings as well. Paddy, thank you. Air pollution linked to Alzheimer's disease. That is next. Our WA animal lovers are helping these ex-pet orangutans learn to swing. And Kelly Haywood, we're in for a wild weekend of weather.
Well, Tomo, damaging winds, flash flooding and the chance of hail with the first storm of the season set to bear down on the city tomorrow afternoon. I'll have the very latest on that up soon.
To Friday finance now, and the local share market heads into the weekend at a fresh record high. Here's finance editor Chris Kohler.
Investors are still confident this is going to be a good year, one with interest rate cuts and economic growth. And with that in mind, the share market finished the week at its highest level ever. This is the entire history of the ASX 200 index. You can see the GFC, the COVID crash, and here we are now, sitting on top of it all. And these are some of the stocks that have pushed us there this year. Big gains have been seen from Wesfarmers, which owns Kmart and Bunnings, and major banks have also outperformed, while BHP has lost more than 10% so far this year, and Woolworths isn't far behind. As for today, an almost 50-point rise, half the gain for the week, and the Aussie dollar finished the week on a stronger note, buying 65 US cents and 60 euro cents.
Let's take a look at the price of unleaded petrol across Perth tomorrow. The average will be $1.82 and 7 cents a litre, but you can find it cheaper at Naval Base on Dunley Street. The length of time Australians are waiting for Centrelink support has been exposed, with 133,000 claims taking longer to process than agency standards. More than 20,000 people applying for the age pension were forced to wait more than 49 days, while another 30,000 on low-income support faced delays of more than 28 days. The Albanese government says 3,000 new staff are working to clear the backlog. Nationwide shortages could be the reason why you're paying more for your regular medications. Many common drugs are in short supply, with waits of up to 6 months.
Right now, the Therapeutic Goods Administration lists almost 500 drugs as being in short supply. 45 are critical. Some of them include antibiotics, antidepressants, cholesterol-lowering statins and reflux and diabetes treatments. One particular drug, quinapril, used to treat high blood pressure, is listed as being in critical supply. The TGA has launched an investigation to identify the reasons for the shortages. The majority of our drugs are imported from China and India and can take up to 6 months to restock. But there are alternatives. Chat to your pharmacist about whether your medication can be substituted, but note you may have to pay a little more for a different brand. You can search the TGA's medicine shortage database to see if your medication is running low.
Australian researchers have uncovered new details on the link between dementia and air pollution. They found the most damaging components of pollutants after performing experiments on mice and human brain cells.
And what we found was the magnetite nanoparticles had the most consistent effect in inducing Alzheimer's disease signs and symptoms.
The particles are usually emitted from brake pads and vehicle exhausts. It's been revealed exactly how WA animal lovers are helping to save wildlife species around the world, with Perth Zoo spending $155,000 this financial year. Donated money from West Australians has built new infrastructure for tree kangaroos in Papua New Guinea, as well as a jungle school program in Sumatra.
This is a program that allows these ex-pet orangutans to get back to the wild and become how they should, thriving in their native habitat.
You can donate to these causes on the Perth Zoo website ahead of World Wildlife Day, which is this Sunday. Kelly Haywood is back with all your weather details right after this break.
Welcome back. Well, nothing but sunshine today, but there is a severe weather warning in place for this long weekend, with conditions set to deteriorate in the early hours of tomorrow morning. Today we hit a top of 34 degrees just before 4 this afternoon, taking most of the day to warm from our overnight low of 19, and right now it is still 29.7 here in the city. Looking to the satellite, and there is a trough currently making its way south. It is set to reach the central wheat belt tomorrow, and then the city by Sunday afternoon, bringing with it 90 km/h winds and up to 80 millimetres of rain to some parts and hail. Now, there is rain on the radar for the east coast too. A morning shower ahead for Melbourne tomorrow, 21 the top there, rain and 28 degrees in Canberra, and the same for Sydney, a top of 27 degrees, and in Brisbane, sunshine and 33. Crossing back into WA, in Broome can expect storms and a top of 32 degrees tomorrow. 28 will be the top in Carnarvon, and in Marble Bar a very warm 41 degrees. Looking further down the coast, cloudy conditions ahead for those in Jurien Bay, 37, 33 and cloudy in Bunbury, and in Esperance a very cooler top of 25 degrees. Now, there is a strong wind warning in place for anyone heading out on the waters tomorrow. Winds will reach up to 30 knots. Seas and swell will both reach 1.5 metres. Now, it's not really boat weather though. We are looking at 10 millimetres of rain and a potential storm tomorrow, but we are still expecting a top of 31 degrees with strong winds throughout the day that may help ease those humid afternoon conditions. Sunday though, we are looking at up to 15 millimetres of rain with the chance of a thunderstorm that will clear for your Monday public holiday though. Cloudy and a top of 27 degrees there. 30 will be the top for Tuesday, Wednesday 31, Thursday 33, and then on Friday sunny and 32 degrees. So it will be a wet start to autumn, Tomo, following our hottest spring and summer on record.
It's early in the year, Kelvin, I'm going to say it. We need the rain. Thank you. That is 9 News for this Friday. Thanks for your company. A Current Affair is next. Enjoy your weekend. Good night.